In this episode, we talk about a plastic treaty being formulated to end plastic pollution. We also talk about Hemant Soren being sworn in as Jharkhand's Chief Minister. But first, we talk about demands for demolishing a mosque located in Uttarkashi. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Questioning the legality of an old mosque has led to escalating tensions in Uttarkashi. A decades-old mosque situated in Uttarkashi has become a bone of contention and has led to protests going violent and situations of stone pelting as certain Hindu outfits are demanding to demolish the said mosque. The Alpasankyak Seva Samiti has flagged certain concerns to the High Court regarding the same. Meanwhile, the state government has transferred Uttarkashi SP Amit Srivastava within 3 months of his appointment. To understand the entire matter and what the current situation in Uttarkashi is, we have Indian Express's Avaneesh Mishra joining us. Avaneesh, can you share with us in detail what the issue is regarding this very old mosque in Uttarkashi?
Yeah, so this entire issue started earlier this year when a member of a Hindu organization filed an RTI seeking information on the legality of this particular mosque. At that time, the administration responded that they do not possess the necessary documents, and because of that, the Hindu organization submitted a memorandum to the DM of Uttarkashi demanding that this mosque is illegal and it should be demolished. Later on September 9th, coalition of right-wing Hindu groups submitted another memorandum to DM, and they said that this mosque is not registered in the revenue records, and also staged a protest outside the DM office. Following that, the DM formed a committee led by the local SDM to investigate the matter, and they confirmed that the mosque is legal and it does not occupy any government land. Later, the senior police officials also confirmed that the mosque in Uttarkashi town is totally legal and it is built on land registered to members of the Muslim community. However, the Hindu organizations denied these claims, and they said that no, earlier we were told that there is no document to prove that this mosque is legal. And because of that, they staged a sit-in protest outside DM office, and later there was a protest rally which turned violent because the Hindu mob, they tried to deviate from the path which was predefined that this is the path you have to take your procession. However, that led to a violence, and there was stone pelting and some force used by the police to disperse the crowd. So yeah, since then this has become a very hot topic in that particular area, and since then there is a kind of tussle between the government which is saying that this mosque is legal and the Hindu groups who are saying that this mosque is illegal and should be demolished.
Right, and certain concerns were also flagged by Mushraf Ali, president of Alpasankyak Seva Samiti, and Ishtiaq Ahmed to the High Court. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so these petitioners approached the Uttarakhand High Court to prevent a planned Mahapanchayat, which decided that it will take on the 1st of December and it will be targeting this mosque in Uttarkashi. Also, the Hindu right-wing organizations have asserted that the event will proceed on December 1st, and that is exactly what the petitioners are worried about. They are saying that the administration and the police should provide adequate protection to the mosque and the minority community, and also ensure that this particular Mahapanchayat does not take place, because there is a possibility that things might flare up and people might try to demolish this particular mosque.
Right. Post this petition being filed, what did the High Court have to say regarding the situation?
The High Court said that it is the responsibility of the administration to make sure that enough security and safety is provided, because the government and the administration is saying that this mosque is legal. While hearing the petition, the court even emphasized that India is governed by the rule of law and it is not a theocracy, and because of that, it directed the state to maintain strict law and order around the mosque. And after the November 24th hearing, on Wednesday, the court was informed by the state government that they are providing enough safety and security to the mosque and the minority community. And also the police informed that as of now, no permission has been granted to the right-wing Hindu organizations to proceed with the event they have announced to take place on December 1st. The court last heard this case on Wednesday, and after they were informed that enough security and safety is provided in that area, and no permission is granted. The court has scheduled the next hearing on December 5.
We also hear that Uttarkashi's SP Amit Srivastava, who as a matter of fact was recently appointed to the post, has been transferred.
Yeah, it is to be noted that just like within a month after the Uttarkashi police confronted and stopped this particular Hindu mob, which deviated from its route approved for the protest rally. So within a month, SP Amit Srivastava has been transferred, and it is also important that he is transferred within 3 months of his appointment to Uttarkashi district. So that is notable. I mean, there is no confirmation, and we cannot comment on why he was transferred. But people are kind of trying to connect the dots, and they are saying that it is not very usual to transfer an IPS officer within 3 months of his appointment. So it is obvious that people will try to connect the dots and connect these two incidents.
Right. And what does the BJP government have to say about the current situation in Uttarkashi?
The government has not said anything to the media or in the public. However, it has informed the court that based on what the court earlier directed, they are providing safety and security. Forces are deployed in the area. And as of now, no permission has been granted for the scheduled rally, which was announced by the Hindu organizations to take place on December 1st. But as of now, as far as the legality of the mosque is concerned, the district administration has confirmed that the mosque is legal. However, on the state level, no statement has been issued in that regard.
You also had the opportunity of talking to Amit Srivastava, the SP. So what did he have to say?
It's the same thing as I mentioned earlier, that he's saying that they are providing safety and security, and no permission has been granted for this particular event. And he also added that if there is any attempt to hold it in a public space without permission, then they will not be allowed, and gathering on private property are permitted only after proper approval, which so far has not been granted. However, Shastro also confirmed that the Hindu organizations have asked for permission to hold this particular rally, but yet to take a decision on that, and as of now, no permission has been granted.
Next, we talk about a plastic treaty. Around 175 countries have converged in Busan, Republic of Korea, to negotiate the first ever treaty to end plastic pollution, including marine pollution. This is the fifth and final round of talks since 2022, when the UN Environment Assembly agreed to develop such a treaty by the end of 2024. The annual global production of plastic doubled from 234 million tons in 2000 to 460 million tons in 2019. Nearly half of this was produced in Asia, followed by North America and Europe. To decide on certain parameters and ways to limit plastic use and production, this treaty is being formulated. To learn why this treaty is the need of the hour, what changes will be required regarding it, and where does India stand as far as plastic production and this treaty is concerned, we have Indian Express's Nikhil Ghanekar joining us. Nikhil, can you explain to us why this plastic treaty is needed at this given moment?
So, Niharika, this goes back to discussions that countries had under the United Nations Environment Program over the last 3 to 4 years, and specifically regarding a major decision that was adopted by the UNEP and the countries, party to the United Nations, regarding the urgency to address the mounting problem of plastic pollution. And this decision was taken in Kenya, in Nairobi in 2022, where they decided that we need to have a, if possible, legally binding treaty for all nations, where we can decide on certain issues with regards to ending plastic pollution, and which includes marine pollution as well, the marine pollution caused by plastics. And this broadly goes back to the fact that plastics, as we know, is something which is a ubiquitous item, across the world. It is used in everyday items. It is used from the biggest of machines to our daily needs. And because of its adaptability, because of the way in which it can be molded easily, it is found in everyday items as well. And as a result, over the years, we have seen this problem grow bigger and bigger with each passing year. However, the production of plastic and its consumption has not come down, commensurate with the kind of problems that it poses with regards to environmental hazards and health hazards. So that is in brief what the problem is, and the solution that countries have thought of is to start by negotiating a deal or a treaty of sorts, which can be used to either have a cap on plastic production or have certain other measures.
Right. And what kind of impact does plastic production and the use of plastic have on the environment?
So the most fundamental problem with plastic, Niharika, is the fact that it is not biodegradable. Plastic once discarded takes years and years, almost by some accounts half a century to decompose. And as a result, we have to address this issue by way of either cutting the consumption down or by recycling it. And for recycling, it means that we have to collect it in efficient ways. So that is number one. Number two is the fact that plastics come from petrochemicals and oil and gas, which is fossil fuels, as we know, and because of which there are naturally emissions that are released into the environment during the production process. While the plastic is made, chemicals are added to it. These chemicals, when exposed to certain environments, for example, extreme heat, they can leach into the environment. Person using the plastic product can get exposed to the chemicals, and these chemicals, why they use basically to mold plastics in a certain way, to add color, to give it flexibility, for instance. Secondly, when plastic is discarded, we all see on our streets, in our oceans, in our rivers, plastic chokes up water bodies. Plastic can harm the ecosystems and the creatures living inside these water bodies. So that is another issue. It can also contribute to climate change because of emissions from plastic products themselves.
And what about human health?
As far as humans are concerned, scientific studies that have been submitted to the United Nations Environment Program have found that exposure to chemicals in plastic can cause endocrine disruption. Now, what does this mean? It means that it can cause diseases such as cancer, diabetes, reproductive disorders, and neurodevelopmental impairment as well. It can also contribute to climate change because of emissions from plastic products themselves. So, these are some of the issues on environment as well as health.
Right. And if we talk about this treaty, what kind of rules and regulations are we looking at once it's finalized?
So, the most fundamental aspect that the countries are discussing is the fact that we need to address the entire life cycle of plastics, which means that right from the production till the time it is discarded. Every stage that the plastic goes through during this entire life cycle is thus being addressed as part of the treaty that is being attempted to being finalized. Now, what does this mean? So, in terms of the negotiations that the countries are engaging in, there is a draft text that has been prepared. And this draft text has been prepared over a course of 4 meetings that have happened earlier in Uruguay, in France, in Kenya, and the last one which happened in Canada. So countries have basically stated their positions on different issues, such as the most important one, in fact, whether we need to have a goal in mind or a cap in mind for cutting down plastic production. Secondly, whether we need to eliminate certain kinds of plastic, let's say, for instance, the single use plastics. For example, straws that we use to drink beverages are discarded once they are used, so they don't have any other utility. Third, the kind of chemicals that are used and whether they can be phased out. Harmful chemicals that, when exposed to humans, they cause them harm. Fourth, one of the more other important things is whether countries need a finance mechanism, a kind of financial support to develop technologies and also to transfer technologies if a cap is decided for cutting down plastic production. So these are some of the highlights of what is being discussed this time around in Busan, Korea.
And Nikhil, what kind of challenges would you say are there in the way of the formulation of this treaty?
That's a very important aspect, Niharika, because let's take the biggest pressing issue, whether the countries can agree to put a cap on the production of plastic. Now, this is a contentious issue, to put it mildly, because, and we discussed earlier, that plastic production, the key material used is petrochemicals, oil and gas. These are fossil fuels. Now, fossil fuels as it is have been curbed because of the pressure on countries because of the global climate talks. So they are all countries which are rich in oil and gas. They are increasing their investments in petrochemical refineries and plastic production. So there are two sets of countries, one who are rich in oil and gas and one who are basically major players in the production of plastic. So these two set of countries, and that includes India as well, because we are a large plastic producing nation, we are not exactly supporting a target to put a cap on the plastic production. So this is one of the most sticking points that is going to be discussed during these negotiations. Secondly, finance is going to be something which is going to be a sticking point, as in the case of climate talks, where the developing nations seek finance from developed nations for cutting down emissions and for adapting to greener forms of energy production. Here too, countries are asking for some kind of a dedicated fund through which they can adapt or transition to technologies which can either be more efficient for plastic production and reduce the impact and footprint on environment. There is a just transition component being discussed as well, which basically means that the people, the communities whose livelihood depends on plastic, if certain products are phased out, if certain chemicals are phased out, which their production is reduced, then what kind of impact it will have on these livelihoods. So these communities and people will also need to be compensated in some way by their domestic governments, federal governments. So these are the issues which are more contentious in nature, and these are the challenges in formulating this treaty or arriving at a final treaty.
Right. And as you mentioned, India is a large plastic producing country. So can you tell us a little bit about how much plastic is produced in India?
Certainly. India, as per the recent studies that we have seen across the globe, produces somewhere around 9 to, if we talk about waste, generation of waste, then it's around 9 to 10 million tons of waste is generated each year. Now, government studies are, the more recent ones are not easy to come by in terms of the data. We don't have the latest studies, but this study was carried out by researchers at the University of Leeds, where it said that in terms of generation of plastic, India is number one right now. And we can see that obviously around our streets, around our water bodies, how it affects our drains, and they are choked up. So it's definitely something which is very visible.
Right. And what kind of stance does India hold as far as this treaty is concerned?
So what has happened is that in the last talks that happened in Canada, during the conclusion of the talks, the countries have given certain kind of statements and submitted certain kind of positions that they will take on the most sticking issues or the most sore thumb issues. So India, for example, have said that they don't want to specifically have a cap put on plastic production, and because they said that this is beyond the scope of what the United Nations Environment Assembly resolution said, it's beyond that mandate. Secondly, the country has also sought the inclusion of financial and technical assistance and technology transfer in whatever substantive treaty is finalized. Third, on the issue of harmful chemicals being excluded from the production cycles, India has said that any decision should be based on scientific studies, and the regulation of such chemicals should happen domestically. So the theme that is coming out here is that on some of these issues, India wants self-regulation rather than being a party to something which is more legally binding or to something which is adhering to a global set of rules. So they want a mix of both things, if I can put it that way. On some things, they are very firm that they don't want it to be included in the treaty at all. But on the issue of, let's say, recycling, on waste management, they are completely on board that we should certainly address this in a more urgent way.
Right. And while India has certain strong opinions regarding this particular treaty, there are also certain steps that have been taken in the direction of reducing or limiting plastic use as far as India is concerned, like you mentioned. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
The Indian government banned single-use plastic in 2022. Now, this was done for 19 category of products, such as, let's say, disposable plates, straws, the balloon sticks that are made of plastic. And these categories were developed based on a certain criteria that was developed by Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, Ministry of Environment and Forest, and eventually it was notified by the Central Pollution Control Board. They have also said that the country wants a mechanism to be established for assessing the infrastructure requirements of safe and scientific waste management and the kind of resources that would be required for managing this waste. So these are some of the highlights of what position India has taken so far.
And in the end, we talk about Jharkhand. Yesterday, Hemant Soren, the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha Supremo, took the oath as Jharkhand's Chief Minister for the fourth time. In one of the first comments after taking the oath, he extended best wishes to the people and told the news agency PTI, quote, "Now we will promptly get to work for the betterment of people of the state," unquote. Hemant is taking the first cabinet meeting at Ranchi's Project Bhavan, the Indian Express has learnt. The JMM leader was sworn in as the 14th Chief Minister of the mineral-rich state after winning the state assembly elections earlier this month. Opposition leaders such as Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha Rahul Gandhi, Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Aam Aadmi Party leader and former Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal were present at the event in Ranchi. Hemant's father and JMM co-founder and president Shibu Soren was also present on the stage. Jharkhand Governor Santosh Kumar Gangwar sworn in the 49-year-old Hemant as the Chief Minister.
मैं हेमंत सोरेन सत्यनिष्ठा से प्रतिज्ञा करता हूं कि जो विषय झारखंड के राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री के रूप में मेरे विचार के लिए लाया जाएगा अथवा मुझे ज्ञात होगा उसे किसी प्रकार व्यक्ति या व्यक्तियों को तब के सिवाय जबकि ऐसे मुख्यमंत्री के रूप में अपने कर्तव्यों के समय निर्वहन के लिए ऐसा करना अपेक्षित हो मैं प्रत्यक्ष अथवा अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से संसूचित या प्रकट नहीं करूंगा.
Later in the evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also congratulated Hemant on taking the oath as Jharkhand Chief Minister. In the recently concluded elections, the JMM-led alliance had 156 seats in the 81-member assembly. The Bharatiya Janata Party-led National Democratic Alliance, on the other hand, managed 24 seats. The BJP had run its election campaign on the twin issues of Ghuspaitiye immigrants and Mati, Beti and Roti, land, daughter and food. The JMM meanwhile kept its focus on Hemant and the party's tribal identity, and in August launched its income support scheme for women, the Mukhyamantri Maiya Saman Yojana, which promises Rs 1,000 monthly to women aged 18 to 25 years in the state. The opposition BJP too had promised a version of this with a higher payout, the Gogo Didi Yojana, under which women would receive Rs 2,100 per month. Hemant Soren had walked out on bail from the Birsa Munda jail in Ranchi in June after spending 5 months behind bars in a money laundering case. During the recent elections, his wife Kalpana Murmu Soren also campaigned extensively. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.